All right, Miriam, we would like to talk to you about all these wonderful, wonderful questions, answers, and options for families, specifically assisted living versus home.
Okay.
All right.
Great. Thank you, Stella.
You're welcome.
It's a privilege to be here today to chat with you about the different options for senior living, as we call it in the industry. I am an owner of a franchise that is based out of Phoenix, Arizona. We have over 135 offices throughout the United States, where there are individuals like myself that can help families find the right fit options for them when they are struggling for that loved one to live on their own in their own home environment and might be looking for additional supportive services. But today I'm here to chat with you about the different types of senior living options that are available. And kind of share with you some of the benefits of the community living environment, as well as, maybe some things to think about on the caregiving side of things to ensure that, you're giving your loved one the best possible care. So the different types of living that are available is independent living in a community environment, assisted living, which I will go over here in a second. And there are also assisted living private homes that provide care services in a group environment. There is memory care that is specifically for when a loved one gets to that point where they might be exit seeking or having some more progressed challenges cognitively with their daily activities, as well as skilled nursing care. And then there are life plan communities, or what we call continual care retirement communities within the industry. Independent living is just what it is and what it says. It's living independently. But it allows individuals to be in a more social environment, also have more eye contact with the individual so that isolation and those kinds of things are reduced. And I know with COVID and what we've been going through so far with the pandemic, that has been a concern for many family members. Assisted living, really the first step into assisted living and looking at the activities of daily living that are challenging for some folks. Most of the time we see that starting when it comes to medicine management, where the individual is not consistent on their schedule with taking those prescription medicines at the right time, maybe with or without food, and just really not being able to stay on track with that. That's one of the first challenges that you kind of look at. And in assisted living, they would provide that support from an LPN or an RN, specifically coming in to their apartment and ensuring that they do get that taken care of. They can also assist with bathing and dressing activities, standby assistance, possibly just to ensure that they're not going to fall out of the shower, things of that nature. There might be some mobility challenges. We see a lot of mobility challenges when it comes to transferring and, ensuring that individual gets up properly and able to support themselves as they use their walker or whatever throughout their apartment. And then in a group home situation, in an assisted living group home, that is a great opportunity. A lot of times some of the group homes are more smaller, a much smaller environment, and it works well with some specific needs for possibly memory care challenges or Parkinson's and things of that nature. It is in a home situation where 5 residents, maybe 9 residents live together, depending on the licensure, and it a lot of times is great for memory care because of the familiarity of the actual home, and they might be referencing in their mind what that was like living in their own home situation. So there are homes like that throughout Ohio and all the states throughout the United States. Matter of fact, in Phoenix, Arizona, where our headquarters is, there are 1,800 homes in Phoenix city proper right there that do provide those home situations for care. Then there is memory care. We talked about that. A lot of people live with dementia and those related diseases in assisted living for many, many years. Just because an individual is diagnosed with those challenges or might have some cognitive challenges doesn't necessarily mean that they need memory care right away. That is a progressive thing with the disease that comes into play really on their activities of daily living. How able are they to get around and know how to get around throughout the day? And those supportive care services on a more intense level with possibly incontinence and things like that. So memory care, we would be looking at someone that would be exit seeking and or just anxious and having those specific needs at a more intense level of care for them. Your life plan communities or your CCRCs are communities that give the whole spectrum of care throughout the aging process. Those have been around the longest in the United States, and really it's, there's a number of different options of being able to get into one of those communities. Some of them are an entrance fee type format, but there are also others that do offer the normal rental program option as well. And really the whole idea is that you can tap in wherever you are on the aging process and spectrum process to be able to join those communities. It might be an independent living, knowing that as you age in place there and stay in that community, become involved, get your friends, get your groups that you belong with, enjoy the activities that are provided in that community, and you need additional supportive services all the way up through skilled supportive services, it is there on site for you to be able to participate in that. So it's just a matter of working with someone like myself that is an expert in knowing the ins and outs of all the communities in your local area, what type of care they provide, because they don't all provide the same type of care in all the communities, and just being able to identify based on what your medical needs are with your family, the budget, and the geographical location of what fits best with your family needs, to be able to direct you guys to those right places. We want to talk about being honest with yourself, and I know Stella and our previous workshops have been about caregiving in the home and all those wonderful things that we want to do for our loved ones when we get to that point. But there does come a point sometimes, whoever is doing the majority of the caregiving, where they might need to just step back and take a look at what is going on and how it's affecting that individual. There's a statistic nationwide that between 70 and 80% of all caregivers do end up having some type of physical, mental, or emotional challenges as a result of caregiving for a loved one with a particular illness. And that can really truly weigh on the well-being of the caregiver themselves. So if those become chronic challenges and problems for the caregiver, then there are options that you oftentimes need to look at other solutions or possibilities to extend care and get some other additional resources and help for you on that. what are your loved ones' care needs now is a good question to ask yourself. Are you challenged with, is that caregiver or is the patient challenged with mobility throughout the house? You know, is it cumbersome to get around? Are there stairs situations? Are there rug situations? You know, is there just clutter with too much furniture pieces and things like that? Those are oftentimes, you know, something that the family can look at, but it's also important for the caregiver to be on the lookout for that loved one to ensure that they are safe in that home. You know, falling is the number one challenge for all seniors who are compromised with different health needs. And, you know, we want to minimize that. And oftentimes, you know, in the home situation, it might be that, you know, you're getting up in the middle of the night and, or you're worried about that loved one making sure that they can make it to the bathroom on their own, things of that nature. Other, you know, kind of situations that might come up on the incontinence side of things is when, you know, are you physically able to, you know, help them and attend to them and get them cleaned up and be able to change, you know, their adult briefs and things like that. That might be just a physical thing that the caregiver in the home can't do any longer. And so those are all really important things that you make a self-check with yourself about and have those conversations with you as to when you might provide, you know, get additional supportive services. I loved Christine being here, and home health is certainly part of the discussion that we have with all of our families. You know, as to what is a good fit for the family situation. You know, is it bringing people into the home initially, or is it actually moving to additional community situation where you're going to have more support? There are pros and cons to both, and I just want to kind of you know, talk through some of those disadvantages and advantages. You know, in a home situation where you are getting home health services or hospice services or whatever, still someone within the family has to manage that care. And that would be calling the company if the representative that was supposed to show up doesn't show up. Well, what do you do in that situation if you are depending on a diaper change or something like that to happen in the home itself, and that person doesn't show up? So there can be challenges on that end of things, as well as just giving that caregiver a break, and a much needed break that they might need to go to the grocery store or run errands for the family, things of that nature. Having that isolation within a home situation might not be the best fit for the family. And that's where the community can come in, because when you're living in a community environment and you choose assisted living or in a home assisted living home situation or whatever, if Sally doesn't show up, there's always someone else there that can step in and help with those types of tasks. And the support from the entire community helps care for your loved one in that particular setting. Just the socialization aspect of being around other people. You know, part of what I do when I work with a family is to try to understand who the individual is and make sure that the cultural setting within my communities that I work and represent to my families is a good fit for that individual, and that they might have like-minded people that they can connect to and gravitate to, and they might have activities that they have enjoyed throughout their lifetime that they can continue to enjoy at that particular community. The size of the community might be something to think about. You know, like I had mentioned with the assisted living home situations, it's a much smaller environment. There are more boutique-sized assisted living communities, and then there are really large ones. It all just depends on what the overall goal is for the family to as far as their selection services. Here's another interesting point that we also try to think about, and I'm just going to be candid and honest with you. It's not about the adult kids. A lot of these communities have theaters and putting greens and, all these different amenities that are super flashy for the adult kids because they think that mom is really going to go out there and putt on that green. And a lot of times, those can be the triggering factors for the kids to resonate with the community. But what you want to do is make sure that you are getting with the right type of care that your loved one needs and deserves, and making sure that the communication within that community is effective to the family so that you can always stay on top of what is going on with mom or dad, whether it be newsletters or Facebook pages or whatever. There's a number of different resources out there that the communities use to so that the families can tap in and see what mom or dad are doing throughout the day, and that's really important too. So those are just kind of some of the disadvantages and advantages of thinking about it as you're looking for those types of options for your loved one.
All right, Mira, wait a minute. Can't leave yet. Got some questions.
Oh, okay.
All right. So you mentioned that falling is something that usually triggers the conversation about what should we do.
Mm-hmm.
What are clues for families about when assisted living may be appropriate or worth the discussion?
So again, it goes back, I think, to who's actually responsible for the caregiving of the loved one. If it is a spouse who is of similar age, we would be concerned about, can that person physically help the other individual up? What are the limitations on that, as far as how much can they bear weight? Those kinds of things are very concerning in the home situation when a fall occurs. We see it all the time where we're I was just with a family this past week and they called the squad 3 times this week. You're in a situation where that person is risking getting the proper care in the proper amount of time and still holding firm of living at home.
Last question. Your best 3 tips for helping someone who is resistant to going to assisted living. Your best 3 tips to help them on board and find their rhythm in their new place.
So that's the great thing about assisted living locators. We are very customized when we work with our families. We are there on move-in day. We are there touring actively with our families, making sure that they are getting all the information that they need about that community that pertains to their particular situation. And then we are there as an advocate for both the community and the family after the transition occurs. We want it to be successful. So we are constantly tapping in with that family and making sure that they are happy, their resident is happy, and that they can use us as a resource to be able to resolve any question or issue that they have coming up. And that is not common with all agencies. That is the format and the model that we use at Assisted Living Locators.
Very nice. Thank you.
You're welcome.